Hi guys, I'm Emily. Here's the long-awaited Q&A. Right now I am in, I can't even pronounce it, Tishomingo, Oklahoma. I rarely know where I am, like, ever, honestly. I just kind of check the map, looks like a national park or national forest, head that way. So anyway, I am here. I don't have any service. This will be my second night here. I usually spend 1 or 2 nights once I find a good spot. But yeah, let's just jump right into this little Q&A, shall we? The most asked question was, how did you start? So when I was like 20, I think, my sister and I took our grandparents' minivan and like put a bed in the back and drove all around the country for like a couple weeks, and that was the first time I ever went across the country, and I just really fell in love with it, honestly. It was really chaotic with my sister because we fight a lot, but it changed my life, honestly, because if I hadn't experienced that, then I probably wouldn't do what I do today. And then once I moved to Oregon, I wanted to explore the West Coast more by myself, so that's when I started like crashing in the back of my like Toyota Corolla. And that kind of fed the beast of, hey, I can totally do this. Like, I was really roughing it back then. Like, I would only have a pillow. And so this past summer, I wanted to do a road trip with Yeti because obviously I can't leave him behind. So I just, you know, bought a mattress pad, put it in the back of a Toyota Corolla and sent it. Today I have a new RAV4 that I bought back in August after I got back from my last trip. The only reason why I bought the RAV4 is just because there were 2 drives on my last trip in Colorado where my Corolla did not have enough clearance. So I wanted 4-wheel drive. I wanted something a little bit more rugged that could make it up a mountain, go over potholes, all that. So it wasn't even a space thing. The space is just an added bonus with the RAV4. I'm a firm believer in, like, if I could sleep out of the back of a Toyota Corolla with my 60-pound dog for 2 months, anybody can live out of any kind of vehicle. Like, you just make it work. Like, it works if you work it. Of course, the burning question, how do I support myself? Obviously, all of my income mainly comes from my fan sites. I'm in the TikTok Creator Fund. TikTok doesn't pay that well, obviously. I'm hoping to jump into YouTube. And I also have an Amazon storefront, which, like, that's not really anything either. It's just if I'm going to recommend stuff, I might as well make a couple bucks. A lot of people were wondering, like, how I budget my trips, and I really don't because I have a constant flow of income. So I don't have to pay a rent. My car payment is basically my rent. I'm just constantly working and making money on the road. So I would rather be on the road and making money than sitting at home and making money. I don't have like a rent per se. I stay with family when I'm not traveling. So I do a 2 months on, 2 months off kind of rotation. Just because I'm really, really close with my family and I like to hang out with my grandparents and we're all really close and they miss me. So I like to go home and spend my time. So I'll be doing like Christmas and everything like that and then back on the road. Lots of questions about like finances about traveling like this because I know a lot of you are really interested in it. I don't do this in the cheapest way possible. You know, I do a mix of Airbnbs, primarily if like I want to go tour a city, I can't leave Yeti in a car, you know, so I'll get an Airbnb, I'll crate him at the Airbnb with his camera on him because I'm crazy, and then I'll be able to like watch him and check in on him as I go venture about the city. So that's expensive in itself. But other than that, I think you can really do this super, super cheap. I've definitely spent more nights on this trip just in the RAV4 because I have a better setup. I have a generator, which is my power source, because obviously getting all of my gear charged was really hard and was like a big driving force for why I would get a hotel or Airbnb last trip. But now that I kind of have a better handle on things, I've only done like 2 Airbnbs on this trip and it's been really cool. Almost all of the camping that I do is free. In the last year, I've only paid for 3 campsites. I find all of these sites on iOverlander, or you can just do a quick Google for the National Forest and like find campgrounds in there. Also, you want to get really good window coverings if you're going to do stuff like this because if you're driving through cities or sometimes you want to see something, your only option is going to be to stealth camp in a hotel parking lot. And so that involves blackout windows, the whole 9 yards. So just be sneaky. Everybody's also very curious on like my expenses for the trip. It's really hard. I don't have service right now, otherwise, so I didn't do the proper research for this. I want to say my credit card statement was like $2,000 for the 2 months that I traveled over the summer. I have no idea what it is this time. I think that it'll even out to being less this time, honestly, just because I've stayed in hotels so much less. A lot of other questions revolving around my sobriety. So I'm 16 months sober. I'm really proud of it. I feel like I've come a really long way mentally, honestly. It's never something that I thought would happen, but here I am. That also ties into, like, with my sobriety, I spent almost a year just like isolated by myself. I moved back in with my mom from the West Coast, and I cut off all my friends that were nearby, and I basically just hung out with my mom and my grandparents for an entire year. So, no, I love them. They're awesome. But, you know, I think that because that year was so lonely for me in itself, I don't get lonely on the road. Like, hardly ever. Oh my God. Okay. Sorry about that. Because of that secluded year, I rarely get lonely. If I do get lonely, I call my mom. I think that social media also really helps. So, like, TikTok especially has been like a really big outlet for me, because like 90% of my human interaction every day comes from that silly little app. And, you know, I post on there, I get to connect with other people. I get really bad social anxiety, so it's actually easier for me to interact, you know, through a phone or through TikTok or through comments than to like meet up with people. And a lot of people are like, don't you get scared at night? I'm not afraid at night, honestly. Yeti is like my #1 line of protection, and I never ever camp in an area where I feel unsafe or like sketchy. Like, that's the thing about like being in the car. If I feel weird about an area or weird about people around, I literally will just pack the car and leave. I like to camp around people. I would rather like have a billion people around us than have no one, because when you're in the woods totally by yourself, that's like really freaky. Like, those are the only times that I've been kind of weirded out. Moving right along. So what do I use to find the spots? Like I said, I use that app, iOverlander. I also use Campendium sometimes. A quick Google search. You can sleep in a truck stop, or you can sleep in a hotel parking lot. I really didn't do any hotel parking lot camping until this trip, and it's like the best. Like, I feel so safe in a hotel parking lot. Obviously, food is another thing. This trip I've been doing a lot more like ordering. Like, I'll call ahead to a restaurant and get like a takeout meal or takeout salad or something. Just trying to like be healthier. My eating habits on my last trip, I was doing a lot of restricting. I've been trying a lot harder this trip to make sure that I'm getting, you know, my 3 meals a day, all that jazz. I like to make coffee myself every morning, if I can, either with my electric kettle by plugging it into my Jackery, or I usually use my little camp stove thing. It's kind of just become a really nice morning ritual for me. I don't have a cooler or anything like that, so I obviously can't have anything that would go bad. So I do use like a powdered creamer, but you know, you get used to it. I totally love it, honestly. But aside from that, I'm a really horrible cook. So if you watched my last YouTube video where I burned the shit out of those pancakes, that's the type of cooking you would get if you married me. I have a lot of instant foods and soups, and obviously, like, I could survive off of SpaghettiOs, and I know that that's fucked up. That's my biggest secret, probably. Don't tell anyone. Somebody asked, what's the worst thing about traveling? Literally just being away from my family. My last trip over the summer got cut short because my grandfather wasn't feeling very well, so I had to head home to be with them. I really like to meet up with my mom at least once every road trip, so we'll pick like a fun area. Last time we stayed up on Flathead Lake in Montana. So fun, loved it. And then this time we went to Nashville for the weekend, and that was awesome too. My mom is a ton of fun. We're besties. The best thing about being on the road is like being able to be in areas where I can have Yeti off the leash and running totally free. Like, to see that little dog who used to be chained up all the time, To see that little dog run around all happy, I love it. I love him so much. I take a lot of inspiration from like nature and like seeing big sights, and yeah, I don't know. I feel stagnant when I'm at home, so being on the road for me just like keeps the gears turning. And I'm always in a good mood and I don't know why. How has traveling changed you internally? I'm assuming that means emotionally. I feel like I can't really say that traveling has done it, just because this full like calendar year I got sober, and like I think that all of those play a key factor in me being totally able to spend time by myself. I used to in the past like be like a relationship girl and like wanted to be out and partying, but like I don't think those things actually were very fulfilling for me, because I was numbing myself with drugs and alcohol to continue those things. And so I think that like it sucked in the beginning, but like learning to spend time with just myself was awesome, and now I can't get enough of it. And it's a little scary, because when I have to hang out with people other than my family, I want to cry. What does my future living situation look like? Would I buy a house? For months, I was obsessed with wanting to buy a house. I was looking at land like crazy. I don't know if a house is in my future. I'm really into like alternative small living. Not really a tiny home girl, but more like yurt style, because that's what I grew up in. My dad was obsessed with yurts. We've had two. It's just something that I'm used to growing up. And it's funny because growing up, I was like, my dad is crazy. Like, he's so weird. He always is obsessed with these yurts. He's always at the yurt. He wants a yurt on a mountain, blah, 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 blah. And now I'm like 25 and I'm like, I'm gonna get a yurt and a couple goats, and we're gonna live in the mountains by ourselves. Funny how that works out. Would I ever get married? I'll let you know when I'm done working through the trauma of my last relationship. How is Yeti on the road? He is so good. He is the sweetest little boy. You know, it's been a learning curve. I've only had him 6 months, and he really hates people. Like, is super aggressive and very unpredictable. Like, my first road trip at the beginning, we couldn't go through a toll booth without him, like, banging up against the window trying to attack the toll person as I was paying them. Awful. But he's come a long way, and now he doesn't do that. He's coming out of his shell. It's really amazing to watch, honestly, and I'm really proud of him. I got him from a shelter in Virginia. He's my little Southern belle. He was rescued from a really bad breeding situation, and out of all the dogs that they rescued, Yeti was going to be euthanized because he was so aggressive that he wouldn't let anyone near him. But, you know, I guess the shelter had a volunteer dog trainer, and she just, like, loved him so much, and she would not give up on him. And, really ensured that he would go to a perfect home, and I have experience with dog reactivity. I wish I had a little more information before I signed on, but I am so glad that I have that little dog, because he is just amazing. The hardest part about traveling with Yeti is when I go to visit friends, and also like we can't just go like walk through a park because he's so unpredictable. Working on the muscle training. Once we get there, it'll be a little bit easier, because for now when I walk him, it has to be really far away from everybody and in the woods. And like that's where he's happiest, but it's definitely just more difficult. You know, we can't just go into a restaurant and sit on a patio because he's gonna bite the server, you know? What kind of music do I listen to? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. It's so funny because like I have themed playlists. So when I was in Montana, country music. This trip I've listened to a little bit of country music, but like I have specific songs that remind me of places. Like Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy reminds me of Montana. And then 9 to 5 by Dolly Parton reminds me of Nashville. You know, it's just like, it's weird how my brain works like that. But I am working on a playlist and I'm going to share it with you guys so you can see the inner workings of my brain, because I am all over the map. A lot of questions about how I take my pictures. So all of my work pictures and all of my Instagram pictures are taken using the app Lens Buddy. Which like kind of just takes a million pictures and I just like move around and pose. And then I also have a really good tripod. Would I travel outside the US? Yes, I would. I've been to Mexico, France, England, Canada, because my whole family is from there. It's just really hard because obviously Yeti can't like travel internationally with me like that. Like we could drive to some parts of Canada, but I can't leave him with anybody right now just because he is so bonded to me and he's such a bite risk to other people right now. So we'll see what the future holds. How do I stay sober while traveling? I don't really see any rippers happening around me right now. It's actually so much easier being on the road and staying sober than it is like being home. I'm not anxious when I'm traveling, you know, it's just not, the urge just isn't there. What do I do if I'm lonely? Call my mom. Call my mom, make a TikTok. Like I said, I don't really get lonely. So anything I want to accomplish in 2022? Alaska, baby. Yeti and I are going to Alaska. I really want to drive, so that's all in the works. That's my dream. What brings me euphoria? I love this question. This is my favorite question. Really good music. Right now I'm into Big Wild and a big mountain view. Ooh, I get goosebumps. Maybe it was the wind. How do I live in the moment and not worry about the future? One of the main things that like made me get sober was I went through a really scary bout of psychosis. And I thought I was going to be crazy forever. And it was really scary. And it was really, really hard. And it took a long time to come down from that. And now I'm just really grateful, like every single day, to not feel like that. Honestly, it was so scary and it changed my life. And I think that if that hadn't happened to me, then I probably wouldn't stay sober because I'm so afraid of a repeat of that. So every day I'm just like really grateful to like have this little brain and be like, ah, pretty tree. That's a real tree. This is my real life. Like everything, you know. Scariest thing that's ever happened to me. I had a guy come into my camp when I was in West Virginia on this trip, and he like scared the shit out of me. Turns out he just wanted my campsite, but I think, I don't know what his deal was, but he scared me. My favorite state, Montana, baby. I go through phases. So like, it's like between Arizona, Northern California, and Montana. But I think Montana's winning right now, but I don't know if that's just because it's the newest one. Top 5 favorite places. That's how we're gonna wrap this up. So my top 5 favorite places. Number 1, Flathead Lake in Montana. Go if you haven't been. It's incredible. I stayed there for a week with my mom and then looped back and stayed there for a week by myself. And I loved it. Oh my God, clear water, beautiful. You have to go. Then Sedona, obviously, my namesake. Just obsessed with Red Rock. Hartman Rocks in Gunnison, Colorado was amazing. Yeti and I stumbled across it on iOverlander, and the rock formations, dispersed camping, beautiful, sage bushes, I loved it. Mammoth, California, my friends live really close to there. I just think it's really pretty, but obviously in the summer, I don't like snow. I don't know if you know that, I don't like snow. And then the most amazing place I've been to this year were the Grand Tetons. And like, when I first drove in that night, I just like sobbed. I will cry over a pretty view. I won't cry over much other than a pretty view. But yeah, the Grand Tetons were absolutely breathtaking. And you should definitely go. You should go to all of these places. That's all I have for you right now. I hope that kind of answered some questions. There were a lot and I couldn't get to everything. And I kind of wanted to stick to travel ones a little bit. But hopefully we'll do more in the future. I love you guys. Mwah!